What if the most terrifying monsters you face aren't lurking in the dark, but are fragments of your own shattered mind? For years, viewers have struggled to decode the cryptic plot of post-content, searching for the answers in its layered madness. Follow me to the end of this video, where a compelling and coherent explanation of the post-content video's mystery will finally be revealed.
In the depths of YouTube, beyond the reach of trending lists and popular feeds, exist channels so strange and frightening that they challenge everything we know about the world around us.
Hi, my name is Arthur, and I'm the presenter of the Scary Mysteries Videos channel, where darkness and mystery come to life in every video that becomes the subject of our story. Imagine yourself a recluse surrounded by strange and frightening entities that don't disappear, even in the light of day. You are completely alone, and only shooting videos helps you keep your sanity. Can you picture it? That's exactly what the post-content channel feels like. This is a frightening, surrealistic project where the game in an alternative reality is intertwined with a personal confession of the author, who calls himself Post. His videos are not just a chronicle of his life, but a diary of his struggle with inner demons, loneliness, and the chaos of his own consciousness. The plot of this project amazes with its multi-layeredness and richness of details that form a bizarre, in some places irrational, picture. Nevertheless, I will try to highlight the key points that will help you understand the essence of what is happening, a kind of starting point for building a coherent version of the events unfolding in the series Post-content. You will hear the version itself at the end of this clip. My video is intended for those who value their time and prefer to get a clear idea of the plot and the essence of the series in a few minutes, instead of spending hours of their lives watching original videos or long, meticulous dissections. However, if you do want to dive into all the details of this enigmatic narrative, I recommend you check out Nightmind's 2 circumstantial long plays. Links to them, as always, will be in the description. Let's get back to Post-content. In the description of his channel, the author addresses his viewers. My name is Post, not really, but who cares, and I am a professional YouTuber. I do pretty much everything you can think of. Sometimes vlogs, sometimes video blogs. Sometimes I just talk to the camera. It listens when I tell it about my day. The first video, published in August 2018, opens the door to the world of dark entities inhabiting the author's home. Viewers find themselves in the confined space of his bedroom, where strange and frightening sounds are heard behind the door. Post, driven by both curiosity and a strange detachment, decides to find out what lurks in the corridors of his home. Switching on the light behind the door, he is confronted by a creature in a bird mask that tries to frighten our hero. Instead of panicking, however, Post remains unfazed, slowly walks back into the room and closes the door. The audience's attention then shifts to the television, which suddenly starts broadcasting a strange message. A hypnotic voice pronounces, "Yesterday's bad energy is history, so move past it. See, it's behind you now. So keep moving, and if you feel yourself slipping, just remember, life is an ice cream. Enjoy it before it melts." This first encounter with the absurd and disturbing atmosphere of the canal sets the tone for the whole story. Oddities overlap, gradually building a bizarre and frightening picture. With each new video, the viewers are immersed deeper into the mysteries of the place where the main character lives. Room tour through his house clearly demonstrates the strangeness of this dwelling. The furniture on the ground floor is covered with a film, the bucket in the bedroom is smeared with some suspicious red liquid, and ominous sounds are heard from the corridors. Despite the absurdity of what is happening, Post remains calm and even films a kind of tutorials on how to deal with the monsters in his house. In one such video, he demonstrates how the creature disappears if you first turn away from it and then look in its direction again. In another, to get rid of the monster, one must conversely gaze into its face and persistently ask it to go away. These clips reinforce the strange combination of Post's rational approach with the absurd and disturbing atmosphere of his surroundings. Tension builds when Post discovers the creature in his bedroom, bound with rope and tightly wrapped in black polythene. In an attempt to subdue it, he turns on soothing music, but it fails. The monster breaks free. Viewers soon learn that these entities may be part of Post himself. In one of the videos, a man appears bound and wrapped in polythene in the same manner as the monster in the previous scene. This man's face remains hidden, but his voice sounds suspiciously familiar, as if it were Post himself. The protagonist begins to realize that the monsters are the embodiment of his inner fears, dark thoughts, and repressed emotions trying to escape. The key element of the plot is the appearance of a mysterious box with the abbreviation EGS on his doorstep. The EasyGo Solutions company claims that it can be used to get rid of any problem. All you have to do is throw objects inside that are related to the fears the client is experiencing. Post is fascinated by this idea and begins to actively use the box, filling it with masks and things that he takes away from the monsters, engaging in open combat with them. However, it soon becomes clear that the goal of EasyGo Solutions was not to help the protagonist at all, but to control his mind. The monsters, created by EGS and called types, turn out to be a part of the company's failed experiment aimed at suppressing the will and reprogramming Post's consciousness, with the help of EasyLink, a psychoactive program developed by the company. In parallel, a line with a mysterious faceless girl curator from EGS develops, who appears in Post's life, in dreams and in reality. He calls her his friend, but their relationship was unstable. On the one hand, the girl from time to time brings comfort and hope to the protagonist. On the other hand, she occasionally distances herself and stops communicating with Post. She sends him warm messages and then disappears, leaving him in doubt. This line culminates when another company curator informs Post by the phone that a real meeting with the girl is impossible. This news plunges him into despair, but soon the faceless lady makes herself known again, leaving a flash drive with the inscription "Plug me in" on his doorstep. Looking ahead, I will say that this item proves to be Post's salvation at the pivotal moment of his next transformation. The story reaches its intermediate apogee when Post encounters Type 0, a creature that occupies the basement of the hero's home and is apparently the second EasyLink warden after the faceless girl. The hero destroys it, hoping to free himself, but instead only worsens his situation. His mental state rapidly deteriorates, and his control over reality finally slips from his hands. Further events unfold as in a nightmare. The hero moves between the layers of his consciousness, dialogues with other incarnations of his self, and finally begins to merge with them. Post becomes more and more alienated from reality, plunging into a chaotic vortex where the boundaries between the main personality and the hero's sub-personalities blur, and madness becomes the only inevitability. During one of his journeys, Post finds himself in a silent nocturnal forest. In this strange place, he meets another hypostasis of himself, trying to escape from a dense polythene bag. When it finally manages to free itself, the protagonist sees that this version of Post has no face, and in the place of eyes, there are huge black holes. At this point, the faceless sub-personality speaks to Post and warns him that if he remains in this place, he will suffer the same fate. In the final video of the series, Post manages to pick up the password to the EasyGo Solutions website, causing the protagonist to find himself in a kind of digital reality created by the corporation. In this virtual environment, he meets a faceless girl whose name finally becomes known, Sophia. Their dialogue becomes the climax of the whole story. Sophie confesses that the whole EasyLink program has lost its meaning after the disappearance of that guy whose presence, she hints, was central to the project. Sophie explains that her most recent endeavors have been reduced to endless attempts to reinstall a system that long ago stopped functioning as intended. She now intends to erase herself and suggests that Post do the same, leaving this world with her. At one point in this dialogue, she leads the protagonist to another shocking thought. Since he has ended up inside the site, his physical body no longer exists, and in general, he now has nothing to lose. Despite the fact that Sophie communicates with Post rather aggressively just before the end, she utters words that sound like goodbye and consolation at the same time. She has always been his friend. Against Sophie's suggestion to erase himself, Post makes a different decision. He breaks out of the digital reality created by the company and returns to his home, where he discovers a mysterious bleeding switch on the ground floor. In his hands is a flash drive labeled "Plug Me In" that he received from Sophie. With obvious determination, Post inserts it into the switch. At that moment, a blinding white light begins to pour out of the door next to him, filling the entire space. Without hesitation, Post steps into the light, disappearing completely into its streams. At the last moment, he pulls his hand back to take the flash drive with him, as if not wanting to leave a trace in this strange world. The POSTcontent channel is a multi-layered and deep story that explores the nature of fear, loneliness, and the intricacies of the human psyche. Each video is like a piece of a complex mosaic that viewers have spent years putting together, trying to understand the idea of its mysterious creator. I have met many interpretations of this unusual story, but only one of them seemed to me really whole and internally consistent. To understand the essence of this tale, let's start from the beginning. So, our main character, Post, sought the services of Easy-Go Solutions in the hope of quickly resolving some of his matters. He was probably trying to deal with loneliness, his fears, and a whole host of other mental issues. However, as it turned out, EGS' true purpose was not to help at all, but to conduct experimental tests on humans. The Easy Link program, which was supposedly designed to improve the psychological profile of clients, turned out to be far from ideal. Its failures only exacerbated Post's condition, plunging him into chaos and madness. Nevertheless, despite the damage the program had done to his psyche, Post managed to cope with some of his problems on his own, demonstrating incredible inner strength and perseverance. All this time, Post's actions were monitored by the autonomous program Sophia, whose purpose was to accompany the treatment process. She worked together with another autonomous entity, Type 0, who appeared to be acting as a supervisor. In the final dialogue, Sophie mentions "that guy," implying that Type 0 was an important link in their work together. However, the situation with Post proved to be a dead end for them. Type 0 realized that their efforts were failing. Instead of taking the path to recovery, the hero was sinking further and further into the chaos of his mind. After their final confrontation in the basement, Type 0 leaves the project, leaving Sophie alone to watch over Post and periodically reboot his program. However, Post is no longer satisfied with this state of affairs. He begins to realize that to remain within the program is to condemn himself to an endless cycle of misery. At a crucial moment, another of his hypostasis appearing in the forest shows the hero what will happen to him if he stays in this place. This turning point becomes the catalyst for Post's decision to break out of the closed system. Initially, Sophie shows little desire to help Post get out of limbo. Her behavior at times seemed cold and detached, as if she was deliberately keeping her distance. Over time, however, the situation changed. Probably as a program, Sophie had never felt emotions, but Post's appearance had awakened something in her that at first she could neither accept nor understand. Frightened by her new experience, Sophie sporadically tried to distance herself from the character, which was very evident in some of the videos. However, gradually she was able to come to terms with these feelings. An example of her changed attitude was the "Plug Me In" flash drive she sent to Post. This gesture was a key moment on the road to liberation, showing that Sophie chose to support the main character despite her earlier fears. Her help became a symbol of accepting her new self and supporting Post in his final struggle. Thus, we can say that the Easy Link program, despite all its failures and the chaos it created, still fulfilled its purpose. Post managed to cope with his inner fears, find support in the person of Sophie, and achieve the long-awaited liberation. As a result, the hero not only left limbo, but also found a friend who helped him to complete this painful journey and get out of the program, leaving his demons behind. What is the moral of the whole story? Despite its complexity and many layers, the point seems remarkably simple. If you have a problem, You don't need to shut yourself away or try to cope alone. The help offered by loved ones is not a weakness, but a support, without which it is impossible to move forward. The story of Post reminds us that loneliness and the refusal of help can lead to a state from which it can be extremely difficult to escape on our own. Seek support. Don't be afraid to trust your family and friends. This is exactly what the hero was sorely lacking in order to avoid the pain he had to go through. And let this lesson be a reminder for all of us. Stay tuned. Subscribe to Scary Mysteries videos right now. Immerse yourself in the unknown and become part of the revelation. Uncover the hidden